Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about two critical elements for planting food plots in non-agricultural areas. So any kind of areas, parts of the county, all across the country where you folks live, where there's no soybeans, cornfields, canola, wheat, whatever that may be, just those industrial ag level crop fields. If you're in an area that's void of those, like I am here, the part of the county I'm in, there's none of that, within a few miles of my house. It can present challenges for food plotting in the sense that it can really focus and drive those deer onto your food plot. What little food plot you have sees an exaggerated amount of browse pressure from whitetails, especially prior to the hunting season. And that's a challenge that I've really struggled with here where I'm at on my food plots. For those of you that were watching my videos last year, you know that the deer completely demolished my brassicas by mid-August. And so it got me thinking, there's really two things you can do to try to combat this in your food plot, this issue in non-ag areas. And number one is you could have something that's highly browse tolerant, or number two, you can have the correct timing in your food plot, or number three, I suppose you could do both. And that's actually what I've done here on my food plot. I have the luxury to do both those things, and I'm going to talk about both of those in more detail here. So maybe we'll start with the timing topic. Behind me here, you guys can see my brassicas are coming in really nice. There's some milkweed mixed in. This is a part of my food plot that I just conventionally tilled, and the brassicas are coming up beautifully. What I mean when I say the correct timing is I need to make sure somehow get these brassicas to be reaching their peak form and have their peak tonnage and palatability at the same time that I want to be hunting out here. That's during the deer season, and more specifically even during the rut. I want to have does out here feeding and bedding around my food plot, and if the timing is off, if the timing is not right for these brassicas, then the does aren't going to be bedding around my food plot, and I'm not going to have the kind of hunting season that I'm hoping for. And so how I've decided this year to try to combat or get the timing correct or combat the browse pressure is I went with an electric fence. Now I have it shut off, so I'm touching it here, but this is not a cure-all, solve-all solution. It's what I'm doing this year, and it's actually mid-August right now when I'm filming this video, and you can see that my brassicas look pretty darn good back there. The fence, my electric fence, is knocked down in a couple places over there. I just saw when I came in here, and I'm gonna have to fix that here later today. But this is the means by which I'm trying to get the right timing on my brassicas for this fall. Basically, I just need to keep the deer off of these long enough in order to get those radishes and turnips in the ground so that I can deliver that big radish and turnip payload right during the peak of the rut. That's what I'm going for out here. So that's something I've been mulling over and thinking about and you should think about it in your area if you're seeing way too much browse pressure, is get the timing right. How can you time your food plot so that you're delivering that peak attractiveness payload at the correct time during the deer season? And so my solution in this case is the electric fence. And I ended up having to add another strand of wire on it. So I actually have 3 strands of wire on this now, and I may have to add a 4th because I see that they're still getting in here. But if a couple, 1 or 2 or 3 deer are in here browsing on my brassicas throughout the summer, I think my food plot can sustain that kind of browse pressure. It's just I don't want 15 deer in here every single night browsing on my brassicas. So that's the first kind of key element for food plotting in areas where you're going to see an exaggerated or extremely high browse pressure on your food in late summer before we even get to the season, is think about timing. And there's probably other ideas. I'm talking about brassicas in my case. Maybe it's soybeans, maybe it's corn. What are you planting, and what could you do to make sure that you get the timing right, even though you have that extreme browse pressure on your food plot? All right, now the second critical element is browse tolerance. And in my case, I opted to go with winter rye. As you can see behind me, it's coming up really nice. Now, again, this is mid-August when I'm filming this, and you guys all see how tall this rye is, and you might be thinking, geez, isn't it a little bit early to be planting rye and, you know, having it that tall already? Well, again, I'm up in northern Minnesota. Winter comes early here. Our first frost average is usually around mid-September. I think September 19th is the actual date for the average first frost date. But the deer, you guys out here, again, getting back to this browse pressure problem, they're browsing this so hard. They're out here every single night. There was a few deer up back in that corner when I came back here today, and I actually should probably stop filming videos back here now because I'm starting to do damage probably every time I run these deer off here. So anyways, the browse pressure is so immense on my winter rye right now that they're keeping it mowed down. It's really remarkable, you guys, how many deer are out here. I had a bachelor group of 7 bucks out here. Granted, they were all yearlings, maybe 1 2-year-old, but just incredible browse pressure on this winter rye right now. But that was the other half of my food plot, and the reason I planted rye was for the characteristic that it is so browse tolerant. So the deer should be able to just wail on this stuff, and I can see that those plants are still just pushing up new growth even as they're pounding on it. And that's kind of part 2, the second leg of the stool out here, is that browse tolerant capability in my food plot. So I'm just going to be totally honest. These brassicas, they may or may not make it till deer season. And the reason I say that is because the deer have continued to knock my fence down back in that corner, my electric fence. If they continue to get in here and eat these brassicas off, and my brassica plot is unsuccessful this year, at the very least, then I've got my winter rye here. And that was kind of my thought process in this, is if I can deliver this payload, that get the timing right on the radishes and the turnips, that's going to be gold during the rut. Part 2, in case that's a failure, if this electric fence doesn't work out, my fallback option is this winter rye. And I can tell you, in mid-August, they are just absolutely wailing on this stuff. And I expect them to continue doing that all the way into fall and the early season, and then even into the rut. So those are the 2 critical pieces of food plotting in high browse pressure situations that you really got to think about. And for folks like us that don't have the luxury of cornfields or soybean fields or things like that nearby, it really takes a toll on your food plot. I mean, they can absolutely demolish your food plot in no time, unfortunately, in areas like this. And it's fun to food plot. You know, you might say, well, maybe you just don't even need a food plot, but it's fun. I enjoy it, and I get a lot of reward from planting them and being able to hunt near them in the fall. So we want to have food plots. So I just wanted to get you guys thinking a little bit about kind of those 2 critical things. It's either you got to get your timing right, or you need something that's really browse tolerant, or both. And in my case, again, I've decided to go with both. I have the luxury to do that because I have about 1.5 acres of food plot that I can play with. You know, if I were gonna plant a plot out in the big woods somewhere, real remote, hard to get to, or deer are around it 24 hours a day, I wouldn't even attempt brassicas or soybeans or corn or anything like that. I would just go with something like a rye or oats in situations like that. But hope you guys liked the video or got something out of it. I'm curious to hear what you guys are finding in your food plots that are high browse situations. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and I will catch you guys on the next video.